Hey guys, I'm here in Sedona, Arizona. Amazing place if you haven't been here. I'm a short-term rental guy and I want a property here really bad, but everyone says that the market's saturated and very restrictive. So we're going to be talking with the short-term rental expert in the area, Chad, who sells a ton of these short-term rentals. Is it still a good idea to buy a short-term rental here in Sedona? Let's dive in. Hey guys, I'm here in beautiful Sedona, Arizona with my main man, Chad. Tell the people who you are.
Thanks, Alex. So yeah, I'm Chad McMahan. Lived in the Sedona area for off and on, but about 35 years. I've been a real estate agent in the Sedona area for almost 15 years. And I specialize in investment, in particular short-term rentals, but a lot of other investment avenues as well. So about 95% or so of my transactions are short-term rentals.
Okay.
So I do a lot of that and focus on the Sedona and the Cottonwood areas. So I'm one of the top real estate agents in the country. Last year I was top 1% in the country. I also own and manage a team of real estate agents, and with Realty One Group Mountain Desert, they were the top performing team in the whole Verde Valley, which also encompasses Sedona and some other towns. And I love what I do. I love living here.
Beautiful city. Millions of people come here every single year. Why do people come here?
Well, there are a lot of reasons, but one is, of course, it's stunningly beautiful. Two, in addition to the beauty, it's well located. So you're close to the Grand Canyon, which is about 3 hours to the north and northwest. We're about 2 hours from Phoenix, so it's not that far to get out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so people stay in Sedona, they hike and they bike and they do all this fun stuff here. There's a lot of, alternative energy and alternative health that's become quite popular. So people come out here and they'll also, meditate or go to the vortexes or whatever it is that they crave, whatever it is they want to do. But we have over 200 trails in Sedona, and amazing biking and hiking. We've got Oak Creek that flows through town. So people come out here in the summer when it's hot and they jump in and they get wet and they cool off and they love it. But we also have great moderate weather here. And it's just a stunning oasis, in the desert.
The red rocks are beautiful.
Yeah.
I take my kids up to Slide Rock State Park.
Yeah.
They've been there about 3 times. Absolutely love it. Okay, so everyone knows I'm a short-term rental guy, and I hear all the time that this market is saturated. What say you?
Well, I say that it is saturated when it comes to kind of these typical, more boring homes. There are a lot of those, and they're not performing well. What is performing well is when you get away from the rat race of the budget buyer and the budget tenant, and you look at homes that are nicer, that people are going to pay more to stay at. Those are not saturated, and there aren't enough to meet the demand. So my clients that are looking at properties that are more like the $1 million to $2 million range, and more in like $1.5 million properties, or properties that you fix up and then they become something that's in that range, those properties have high occupancy rates at above market ADR, average daily rate. So they're performing extremely well. Typically, as long as you check the right boxes, which is really easy to mess up, which is why you need to work with a specialist that knows which boxes to check. If you check the right boxes, you're going to do extremely well. You're going to have 80% to 98% occupancy rates with strong ADR, and your gross annual revenue is going to be exactly what you want to see.
Right.
And it's going to feel really good. When you try to budget shop to create something that's for people that are on a tight budget, most people are looking for something for in the lower end stuff. If you're trying to put yourself into that wheelhouse, you're going to struggle. And that's when people are seeing 50 to 65% occupancy rates with market or below market ADR.
Right.
And they're hurting. They're really, really hurting. That's a big reason why a lot of cities are struggling, like Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Occupancy rates have just dropped because that's a lot of what you get out there.
Yes.
It's a lot of the same kind of stuff. But Sedona it's a real pampered getaway.
Yeah.
And people come out here with a lot of money.
Right, that's what I find. It's definitely very, I guess, refined?
Sure.
Yeah. So you're saying 2023, summer of 2023, this is still a good market to invest in for short-term rentals?
I think it's one of the best short-term rental markets in the country. Okay. And this is based on not just my bias of living here and loving it, because I do have bias, but I also am well educated on what's happening with short-term rentals, because I have a lot of clients, most of my clients, I never shake their hand, meaning I would shake their hand if I meet them, but I don't meet most of them. So
You're
most of my clients, most of my clients, they're from the East Coast, they're from California, they're from out of the country, wherever it is, but they're out of the area, and most of my clients won't even come visit their property maybe for years after they buy it. Oh, wow. So a lot of times I meet my clients on Zoom and phone and email and the whole bit, but they don't even come here. So my point in mentioning that is that I talk to a lot of these investors. I work with mainly investors. And so they're constantly sharing info and intel on what's happening in the Smokies, what's happening in other areas that are generally performing well. And I'm also constantly posting on Bigger Pockets and a lot of other sites as well where investors are coming through and they're sharing their experiences. Cities are really struggling. A lot of areas that were doing really well up until recently are struggling. Sedona continues to do really, really well. It's way above what I'm hearing other people describe in terms of return. It just has to be done right. Because you can fail out here too. In fact, most people do. Most people will buy a property out here with an agent that's not short-term rental specialized, that doesn't know what guidance to really give them. They have a rough idea of what they should do, but they don't have it dialed in. And then they're losing money on those investments and putting it back on the market 6 months later, which is, it's almost criminal. I mean, it should not be that way. And so if you're doing it right, you're going to be getting high occupancy, you're going to be getting high gross annual revenue, and it's going to be great.
So I hear all the time, and I've steered clear from this market because I'm always, for those that watch me, know that I'm very scared of regulations. And I've heard that they don't allow short-term rentals here in Sedona, period. Am I completely wrong on that?
So you are wrong, which I don't like to tell people that. But let me elaborate. So let me clear it up. So up until 2016, within the Sedona city limits, so Sedona proper, within Sedona city limits, rentals were 30-day minimum up until 2016. And then on the state level, Arizona passed a law that said local municipalities can no longer do that. Only HOAs, really specifically only CC&Rs, can restrict short-term rentals. So if the CC&Rs restrict short-term rentals, they're restricted. But if they don't, then you're fine. So the simple thing that you can do to make sure that you're compliant and that you're not going to have issues with regulations is it's not just a simple matter of omitting HOAs. That doesn't actually get it done. It is look at the CC&Rs, and if they restrict short-term rentals, then you just avoid it because you don't want to mess with that. You don't want that hassle, and it's not compliant. So even though I'm only really looking at 99% of what we're going to look at, it's going to have no HOA. But that still isn't enough. I still read the CC&Rs for the subdivision because, for example, I can think of 3 subdivisions in the greater Sedona area. I can think of 3 right now that have no HOA, but they do restrict against short-term rentals. So I always check that for my clients. And I know 95% of them, I know off the top of my head right now, and I know what's compliant and what's not. The ones that I don't know, even the ones I do, I always verify. So we're going to be fine. But on the state level, the state says that local municipalities cannot restrict, only the CC&Rs. Now, one day that may change, and I think it's imminent that at some point, this is happening across the country. I think laws will continue to change. But, about 3 months ago or 4 months ago, I interviewed the mayor of Sedona, Scott Jablow, as well as the vice mayor, Holly Klug, and their in-house counsel. And during this interview, which took about an hour, it's actually 2 interviews, and cumulatively it was about 3 hours with them. But in the second interview, the one that I recorded, I actually asked them just straight out, I said, well, a lot of my investors, and myself included, are concerned about what if the laws change and then they restrict short-term rentals and all of a sudden you can't operate it. And their response to that, and again, you can find this right on the recording, is that it would be grandfathered in. So if you have a short-term rental and then the law changes, they're going to let that carry, and they just wouldn't grant any additional short-term rental permits moving forward. So that's the answer.
And I don't see how they could completely ban short-term rentals like we said on the car ride, because I've seen so many timeshares here. And I don't know how you can ban them too. That's a big business here.
And I agree. It's a big business. It raises the bar for the quality of stays, and people have come to require that, to be honest. And so this area, hotels are not sufficient. Hotels are not enough for people, and most people don't want a hotel unless they're just staying for a night or maybe 2. But you stay longer than that, and short-term rental is the only way to do it because usually it's cheaper. It's a lot nicer. It's a lot more private, a lot more space. You get a full kitchen.
Better experience.
Better experience. And the experience that people have grown to kind of require for their travel is up here now. Before it was just a bed. That's secure and private, but now it's like, that's just not enough. I want this.
What are the biggest mistakes investors make when they come here to try to invest in short-term rentals?
I see 2 of the most common mistakes. One is budget shopping and trying to buy something that's on the cheaper side. So a property that needs little work or no work that is 600 to 900,000. That's a real tough nut to crack because you have a huge buyer pool competing with you. And
Right.
so by the time you actually buy something, you actually have to pay above market to get it because it's bidding more. That's pretty normal.
Right.
Also, those properties in Sedona, it's a lot of money, but you don't get much value for
Right.
that money in Sedona. So anyway, that's one thing. The other thing that I really commonly see with investors, and I warn every investor against this because it's a common trap, is to buy a place and not do all the improvements right away. And then, wait for a year or two or whatever to do something significant like add a pool or whatever it is. And my advice is do it all right away.
Okay.
Because the trap, what happens is you do some of the work or none of the work and you wait, and it doesn't produce. The
Right.
cash flow isn't there. And then it always happens the same way. And then investors say, well, gosh, it's hard to justify spending this money on it when it's not putting money in our pockets. Isn't that such a big risk? We'll put that money in, then what if it doesn't produce?
Right.
Well, that was always the plan, was to do that work so that it's desirable, so that it brings up your occupancy rate, so it
okay.
raises your ADR. And so by not doing something, for example, putting in a swim spa or an in-ground pool or a hot tub, or adding that fourth bedroom or adding a fifth bedroom or whatever it may be, or improving the landscaping make it more photogenic.
Right.
If you don't do those things and you wait, then you might get hit with a 60% occupancy rate versus an 80 or 85 or 90% occupancy. It's huge.
Right.
It's an enormous difference.
Right.
So that is the second trap, and it's quite common.
What about, I know we looked at a bunch of properties here, just so the viewers know, pool versus no pool.
Yeah.
How big of a, bad decision is it to buy a property with no pool?
Well, it's not a bad decision to buy a property with no pool as long as you're going to add something.
Okay.
So if you buy a property with a pool, it's really a lot faster for the owners and for limited partners, et cetera. It's a lot faster to start getting the checks coming in, to get the value coming in, because they'll start cash flowing faster, because a pool takes a long time. So permit time on a pool is typically around 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
I've seen it as quick as 1 month, but that's quite rare. So 2 to 3 months on permit. And then construction is usually in the ballpark, depending upon who's doing it and how significant the pool is. If it's a big pool, really difficult terrain, it could take 4 months.
Right.
But typically you're looking at about 2 to 3 months for construction.
Okay.
Most pool companies will tell you roughly plus or minus 6 months start to finish, including permits to completed pool.
Okay, not
That's
too
usually
bad.
what they'll tell you.
And you can do it in the off season.
Yeah, you can do it in the off season. That's exactly right. And it's like we were talking about in the car earlier. It's if the property doesn't have a pool yet, you can always have a pool company start the permit process, block off a couple months or 3 at the most in a slow season like December through end of February, and then you're good to go. And then that's when they do that work.
Talk to the people about the seasonality of Sedona.
Okay.
When is the busy season? And let's say if you do have a 4-bedroom pool, is it just gonna book all the time?
It's a great question. So when I talk about occupancy, I talk about the occupancy throughout the year rather than this will be your occupancy every month, because you're going to have stronger months and weaker months and all of that. Your best months in this area, and when I say this area, I'm talking about the Verde Valley. Verde Valley is this kind of area in this cute little valley that we have here. So Sedona, Cottonwood, Camp Verde, Cornville, Clarkdale, these little towns that are right here. Not Flagstaff, not over the mountain in Prescott, not Phoenix, but this bowl, this valley that's right here. So in the Verde Valley, the best seasons for short-term rentals and just busyness in general is you got March and April and May are really strong.
Okay.
June and July are good. They're above average.
Okay, talk to me about your previous clients that are buying short-term rentals. What are their returns looking like?
I've got clients that are on all sides of the spectrum, but the clients that are consistently in the sweet spot of making money, which is why we do this.
Yeah.
The ones that are getting a good ROI and their cash on cash is really strong and they're sleeping well at night.
Yeah.
Those clients are the ones that they follow through with checking the boxes.
Okay.
And the most successful clients are those that have pools, first of all.
Okay.
It's the number one most important feature in the Verde Valley when it comes to something that's going to boost your occupancy rate and your ADR.
Okay.
So typically those properties that have pools and they have nice curb appeal and they feel welcoming, like we saw a property today that's on Rhapsody. Of course, that was a more expensive one, but that property is so beautiful,
amazing,
and polished, and
Yeah.
it's open, and just you feel pampered just by walking in the door.
Right.
And so that property would consistently perform extremely well.
What do the numbers look like? What are people paying for a property like that? It was a 3-bedroom
Yeah.
with a pool
That property
and a view.
and a view, yeah, the view, and it's really close to hiking and biking.
Right.
It's got lots of outdoor space. So yeah, that property right there, even just as that one's a 3-bed. and you wouldn't add more bedrooms to that one most likely. It would just stay as a 3-bedroom. So as a 3-bedroom, that property, it's definitely over 200,000 gross annual revenue.
Wow.
And I would say the range on that one would be between 200 and 250. And the reason why it would perform, so if it was a 5-bedroom, it would be significantly more.
Right.
But it would perform really well because it does have a luxury feel. It's
Right.
significant.
Very luxury.
It has a very nice, even though the pool's not big, it's a very nice pool, has a beautiful outdoor space. And then in addition to that, and just being a nice home in general, and it has great curb appeal too,
Right.
which is a nice thing. But it also has a marketing boost, which is that proximity to the trail.
Yes.
And in a place like Sedona that has over 200 trails, but most of them aren't close to homes, it's a big factor.
And
you
it's
know?
a popular hiking trail too.
It is.
Not some like
Yeah,
the
it's-
one, the not well-known one.
That's a good point. It's a popular, well-liked, well-promoted trail that it's well-established, and it also branches off to other trails.
Right.
So it's not like you're doing the same. You know, you think about the mindset of the tenants.
Right.
They're going to wake up. Let's say they're active. Like I'm really active. My family's active.
Yeah.
I like to get out with my wife and my boys, and we hike and we bike and we go river rafting and
Yeah.
fishing and camping and all this kind of fun stuff. Go look for wild animals. You know,
Yeah.
the whole bit. And so you don't want to do the same trail every day.
Yeah, yeah.
But that trail branches off to these other trails as
wow.
well. So you can see different prime real estate out in Mother Nature
Right.
every time you go.
Right.
And you can bike it, you can hike it, the whole bit.
Okay, so that property had 3 bedrooms, amazing view, pool, close to biking trails. What are we looking at with average daily rates?
Well, assuming that you're looking at least an 80% occupancy rate, which you very well should be. You should have 80 to 90% occupancy rate on that property.
Okay.
If it's managed right with really good verbiage, amazing photos.
Yes.
You know, I would bring in the best photographer in the state who's out of Phoenix.
Right.
And just really have it pop so that it stands out. So that place, your ADR should be in the ballpark of really close to about $700 a night.
Okay.
And your premium rate on holidays is going to be somewhere around $1,500 to $1,800 a night.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's your premium holiday rate.
Right.
And people pay that, and
Yeah.
you're going to book it out like 6 to 12 months in advance.
Right. So even if you
It's
had
crazy.
it, like the mortgage rate on, I don't know what mortgage rates are now, like 8.5% on a $1.4 million loan. I don't know what the payment's going to be like. Even if it's $10,000 a month, I mean, you're really only needing to book it maybe 10 or 12 nights a month
To pay that.
to pay the note.
Yeah, that's right. And
Not bad.
It's not bad. Yeah. And so it would be, properties like that, or the one on Arroyo Pinion Drive that's requires more work.
Right.
Those properties are strong. They're
Right.
strong. I would consider them to go in the low risk category because the profit is substantial enough.
Right.
It's going to well carry you.
Right.
It's going to well carry you through the slower months, and it's going to be booming in all
Right.
the other months, which is most of the year.
Talk to me about the visitation here in Sedona, because I've been coming here for the last 20 years, but you've lived here close to 30 years. Do you
Yeah.
feel like visitation is going up? Is it staying steady? What's
Yeah.
your take on it?
We have, on average, we have more visitors than we used to, and that
Okay.
number, the average number continues to increase.
Right.
So the number of people that are visiting the Sedona, and I'm talking Sedona proper, not
Yeah.
even greater Sedona area, but the Sedona city limits, which is kind of a tighter circle. It includes West Sedona, Uptown Sedona, the Chapel area. Those are
Right.
the main areas that are like Sedona proper. So those areas, we're getting anywhere from about 4 to 8 million visitors a year.
Oh, wow.
Which is a lot for a 10,000 population.
Yes.
So, and we don't have nearly as many, I was going to say we don't have as many hotels as we used to, but
Yeah.
there have been some new ones that are nicer that have come in, and some of the old ones have shut down, which is actually great.
Right.
So that level just keeps going up as far as that standard, that quality. But yeah, we're seeing that the millions of people that are visiting the Sedona area, it is increasing.
Yeah.
And of course, just like a lot of places, the immediate year following COVID was a big spike, and everyone was just out and traveling, and
Right.
everyone had cabin fever. But we're seeing it continue to stay strong. And in fact, there's been such a calling to this area, and so many people coming in, so many cars, so many people, that it's caused some temporary problems,
Oh, wow.
strain on the city.
Yeah.
So they've had to improve some different things like irrigation runoff, roads, stuff like that. They put in some new roads. They rerouted some traffic that comes off of I-17 to come
Yeah.
through Cottonwood rather than going through the village of Oak Creek.
Right.
Things like that. And that's helped tremendously.
Okay.
So that has balanced out the increase but we're going to continue to see more and more people come out here.
Yeah.
Word is continuing to get out. We're getting a lot more draw from California,
Yes.
but other parts of the country as well. And again, we have an international draw too.
Yes.
So by the busload,
Right.
literally, without exaggeration.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of people, they keep coming out here. They need a place to stay for 1 night, 2 night, a week.
Yeah.
It's perfect for short-term rentals.
Yeah.
And I think that the trend that we have been seeing, and I see this continuing, is people are trusting short-term rentals more than they're trusting hotels.
Right.
It used to be the opposite.
Yes.
But now there's a lot more accountability with review systems.
Okay.
So when it comes to short-term rentals, part of the reason why I love it and why it feels secure to me is that if someone gets a bad review, it heavily impacts their success.
Right.
So, owners will do almost anything to save their high reviews, and tenants know that.
Right.
And so they trust that process. And a place that already has established reviews, especially, is going to continue to get, it encourages more good reviews as well.
Right.
So I love the business model.
Right.
And it's only a good thing. It's going to continue to draw more and more people to the
Right.
area and continue to stay in these short-term rentals.
Yeah. And I have this thesis that so many people are moving to the Phoenix market and Arizona in general, that you have an increase in population, that visitation around those different cities, people have to go visit those. So, okay, Chad, I'm sold on investing here in Sedona. Where can people get a hold of you?
People can reach me. The best way is either you can look me up and Google me, Chad McMahan, Realty One Group Mountain Desert, and you'll find me, find my business page. You can also call me, my cell phone. That's a great way. But if someone just looks me up, Chad McMahan, real estate agent Sedona, I'll be the first thing that'll pop up.
We'll put the link in the
That's
comments there.
That sounds good.